Hello, potential friends and adventurers. I'm Em, and today I bring you 10 rarely utilized great concepts for a dungeon. Welcome to the DM table. Whether you want a dungeon because you've been hankering for something like a mega dungeon or just a really great thematic one, or the name of the game is Dungeons and you just want to explain from where your dungeon comes from, this is gonna be great either way. First, we have something like Wonder of the World. Say if a Raja or a Caliph or a Shah or a King or an Emperor, if one of them has something like Hanging Gardens and Taj Mahal and something along those lines all combined into one, and it's very well maintained, very great, very well stocked grand dungeon, which he uses for sport, for blood sport indeed, seeing which party will come out on the other end, and maybe there's an additional objective, maybe retrieving some jewel and bringing it out is the goal. And maybe two parties compete at the same time. Maybe they cross each other's path. Maybe they don't. Maybe there's two parallel courses. Maybe there's just one course. But now you have a dungeon that's very well stocked, very well maintained, yet not abandoned, not a ruin. You have quite a gratuitously sparkly dungeon that you can explore with your party, and it's designed as a dungeon. It's sporty as well. It's all you could wish for, really, as a DM. So there's the first one. Now, how about one of those heists for the second one? But not just any heist. How about a castle vault? Right in the middle of a big city, in the middle of a big castle, fully populated, fully stocked, well secured. If you wanted to test your party against vault security of a person that can hire a bunch of mages, a bunch of priests, and a bunch of rogues all together to secure it and make all kinds of traps and wards and spells and stuff work security on it, well, here's your chance. And heist is underutilized in more fantasy settings as opposed to modern ones, so there's a chance for all this to be tried out and see how your party does when they really have a high profile job, hey? Next, how about training grounds? Say you have your Thieves Guild or Fighters Guild or something like that, and your party are new members of it, and they're about to essentially take the final exam. And now you have these grounds that are essentially a dungeon, even if there aren't other dungeons per se, specifically in the traditional sense in the world. But this one is, and it's well stocked with traps, with obstacles, with opportunities for each member of your party to shine, and it's a good way to start a campaign, so that can prove very entertaining for your party right from the get-go. Next, we have something I like very much, and it's an arena, but it's not like your party will do the classical thing and fight in the arena like gladiators, no. Say that they're supposed to raid the arena for, say, rescuing somebody from the gladiatorial pits, but the arena is filled with tough characters, and they're beasts, and they're all, think of it like them being famous figures of fighting world. The concept is essentially like what people call a boss rush. You have very little, if any, other things to fight, like guard patrols and so on, but every time you meet somebody that's important or relevant, he or she is probably a boss fight, and probably their ginormous battle lion or something like that as well, or their manticore or something like that. And now, you get the picture. It's a big enough, potentially, thing to be considered a campaign of its own. So if you have some very high fantasy arena that you want your party to raid like this, here's a dungeon suggestion for you. It can be very interesting. You can even sort of interlace story in between the boss encounters. There we go. Now next one. Next one is space station falling from orbit, and party has limited time to escape it, essentially. And yes, this can be done in fantasy because you can have just a wizard that wanted his wizard tower to be taller than other wizard towers and floatier than other wizard towers, and we have essentially a space station. And now it's crashing and it's falling, and the party needs to find a way to escape whilst the dramatic visual graphical stuff is happening in the surroundings, things burning and exploding, and the thing breaching atmosphere and falling downwards and downwards ever more so. Well, that's gonna be a interesting dungeon from just that perspective alone, whatever else you may throw in it. Next we have back of a giant war beast. Say opposing, well, country or a faction or a group or a party or something is invading, and they're on the back of a giant war beast, and now your party wants to climb on top of the war beast so that they can throw the other party off of the war beast so that they can rein in the war beast before it reaches a city or something like that. It doesn't even have to be a slow war beast, it can be something fast and agile but still big, and well, it can be quite exciting, and just think about how this will look. And yes, the other group probably has this somewhat prepared for such an attempt, because it's war. It's gonna be prepared to repel a counter invasion. So yeah, it's gonna be like a dungeon, or at least like a very short but packed dungeon with, you know, security, excitement, battle with another party, all that sort of good stuff. Next we have a dangerous travel either to the past or to the future, and the terrain they're in. Because see if they get the party, if they get transported to the past or to the future in a sort of situation to a terrain so dangerous that it may as well be a dungeon, and they need to, well, return, leave, do something and leave, because it's such an alien and dangerous place to them. They are completely fish out of water here. It could be all those primordial beasts and poisonous plants and giant insects and toxic waters and deadly rain and volcanic eruptions and so on and so forth. Or it could be some sort of futuristic, who knows what it is, that they need to figure out and solve and return from there with the quest done and, say, artifact retrieved or something like that. Well, that's a dungeon idea. Next we have a highly thrilling riding challenge, or driving. It's something that's vehicle centric. Essentially, it could be racing in a vehicle through a mainframe of an enemy computer, all Tron-like, and, you know, lots of pew-pew, lots of lights, lots of glitter, lots of essentially lightsabers or something like that, right from your bike, or driving and shooting from inside your car, or whatever virtual reality thing this may entail. Or for fantasy, and it's easy to do this in fantasy, you have two chosen ones by the god of thunder trying to hurl bolts of lightning at each other from their hammers while striding thunderbirds through clouds, mountains, caves, cliffs, and finally through the halls of the divine, competing against each other. That could be a dungeon. That could easily be a dungeon. Add music per desire. And, well, just expand the concept as you need for your party. Now, next one, if you wanted something more subdued yet very interesting and thematic, what if you have one of those dungeons where party polymorphs, and now there's, say, a group of mice running through territorial rats in the sewers. The whole thing can be quite different than their usual experience, and the dungeon could essentially not necessarily be a dungeon in a traditional prepared sense as much as one of those dungeons of opportunity, and it can prove a good delve, essentially, even if it's mostly because of the new obstacles and challenges. Perhaps specifically because of new obstacles and challenges, because for that quest they may need to be mice, and mice are small and vulnerable, and so on and so forth. So all kinds of new things may challenge them that didn't before, and yet it will be quite a different type of challenge. And there's many other forms that they could polymorph in, or even some such thing as transferring consciousness into other beings because they were called into possession, per se, of those beings' bodies, and so on and so forth. Lots of things you can do here, and yet I haven't seen it often utilized, even though I did see it a few times. And finally, if you want something where you can go all out, we have Unlock an Artifact quest, where parties transported, whether by mind or both mind and body, inside an artifact, and they need to do a quest to fulfill prerequisites to unlocking this relic, and here you can really go all out, because this can be as abstract or as specific or however you want it to be, any kind of challenge. It's all in there. There's the quest too, which party will be excited about because they probably get an artifact afterwards. Especially if they really are gonna get an artifact afterwards, and this isn't something that they're just sort of doing to get a MacGuffin, but rather more so because they are doing a quest for themselves to unlock a reward. So, there you have it. An adventure. If you thought this was unique, maybe you could spare a click. And I could see you here next week, and every week thereafter. Well, I wish you luck on your adventures, and see you then. Bye.